Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. As always, I'm your host, Peter Remoliotis, and on Twitter you know me as PD Beats. This is the podcast where we have digital dialogues in the worlds of social media, sports, and pop culture. And today it's all about wrestling, and specifically wrestling and its ties to social media and social media trends. So I'm quickly going to introduce the panel. First, we are joined by a professional wrestler. We are joined by Donovan Dijak. Donovan, welcome to Popternative.
Hello, thank you for having me.
No problem. And we have digital media consultant. He's been with the Phoenix Suns for 24 years. Jeramie McPeek is with us. Jeramie, we finally did it. You're on Popternative. Welcome to the show.
PD Beats, thanks for having me. We've been talking about it for a year now, it seems like, but happy to join you.
Perfect. And you got the belt. You got to explain that a little bit. The champ is in the building, I guess.
Yeah, when I was at the Suns, I custom ordered this Phoenix Suns digital championship belt about a year and a half ago. And once a month, we would award it to someone on my digital team as just congratulations and thank you for your hard work and effort. And when I left the Suns in September, my digital team gave it to me to keep. So I've been wearing it every day since. No, I'm just kidding. My son has actually had it in his bedroom, so I had to take it out of his bedroom and dust it off today, and thought if we're going to talk wrestling and social media, I should probably wear it at least for a minute or two so my team would see it and realize that I still hung on to it and I didn't scalp it or put it on eBay or anything.
Yeah, no, it's a nice belt. I'm happy it's made the podcast debut on Popternative. And Donovan Dijak is with us. Now, Donovan, it's based on your social media, you've been pretty busy, wrestling, a lot of appearances. Are you sleeping okay? It just seems like you're always, on the road wrestling. Like, how's it been on your end?
Not bad. Sleeping, not much. I mean, a little bit on the weekdays, but yeah, very, very busy. The life of a wrestler on the independent scene anyway is very, very busy. Usually like Thursday through Monday. Thursday's often a travel day. Monday's often a travel day, and then shows are typically Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we keep very busy in that regard. I often describe the social media aspect, especially in today's day and age, as a full-time job. It's not 100% required, but there's definitely more pros than cons when it comes to advertising both yourself and the shows that you're on that week or coming up.
Yeah, well, speaking of social media as a full-time job, Jeramie, that's what you've been doing. You've been doing it for about 24 years with the Suns, and you're recently involved with a Super Bowl as well. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, I wasn't doing social media for 24 years, obviously. When I started at the Suns, we didn't even have the internet or email way back then.
Yeah,
I guess that shows my age. But been in the social space now for 7 or 8 years, I guess. And now that I'm out on my own, I'm consulting brands and teams and athletes on how to use social media, and got a chance to play social media quarterback for the Houston Super Bowl host committee. So did that for the last 5 months, which was a lot of fun, and was just out in Houston for 2 weeks, covering everything in real time, doing Twitter, Facebook streaming, Periscope, Snapchat, Instagram, kind of at every event I could be at. So it was a lot of fun, and it was an honor to be a part of that.
Great. Well, let's get into the conversations now. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. I think it's pretty cool that we have, a wrestler, so someone who's actually performing and kind of look like from the social media aspect of things, Donovan, I'm sure, a lot of wrestlers, avoid it, but especially in pro wrestling, there's a lot of people tweeting. There's a lot of people trying to create, a buzz about something. That buzz in many situations is not necessarily true. The whole Kenny Omega, is he gonna, leave, Japan Pro Wrestling and go to WWE, that type of stuff. So I found it interesting. We'll go with Donovan and then we'll go to Jeramie. But, from someone who's in the ring and then Jeramie who's outside the ring, what do you think is the most Well, first, like pros and cons, right? Like, Donovan, what do you like about being a professional wrestler in the social media space, and what don't you like about being a professional wrestler in the social media space?
Geez, that's a bit of a loaded question. What I enjoy is the ability to market myself, kind of at a moment's notice. You know, almost like real time marketing, if that's such a thing. I've only been in pro wrestling for about 4 years, so everything I've known has been in the sort of social media boom age. But I find that the most advantageous part of it is being able to get in contact with promoters, being able to share and market myself in that aspect, because, you know, on this sort of grassroots level, it's every booking is important. That's, you know, our livelihood. That's how we make our living. So to be able to immediately get in contact with a promoter and share a YouTube clip or contact a promotion directly and be able to advertise yourself for that promotion if you happen to be on it, and to be able to communicate to your fans and the audience, and the promoter can see as well that you're invested in their product, then that leads to more bookings, which in turn leads to more money, which keeps us in business. So I find that that's probably the most advantageous part of it. In terms of the negative, it's hard to say. I would just say overall, sort of avoiding the negativity of social media. You know, oftentimes people, whether it be other wrestlers or a certain group of fans who go on there to either elicit a response from you or just whether they genuinely don't like you or whatever it happens to be. It is an open platform to voice opinions and things like that. So I find more often than not that the downfall of a lot of wrestlers is responding to those critics and kind of making yourself turn out to be your own worst enemy, because it often sheds a negative light on the wrestlers. So yeah, any sort of way that wrestlers can make themselves look foolish is probably the downfall of social media, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Jeramie, working with athletes for many years, you know, with the Suns and now with your own company, what have you noticed from how athletes are using social media or how athletes aren't using social media? Because we have these conversations all the time. There's a lot of, you know, athletes who probably talk to, professional athletes, that are very reluctant to use social media. So, sure, you know, what would you tell them? You know, well, you know, like kind of the pros and cons, but is there anything specifically that you're always looking out for when you're working with clients or when you're with the Suns in terms of the landscape of social media?
Yeah, absolutely. When I'm working with athletes or celebrities, I certainly encourage them to try to be active and consistent and engage with fans and trying to answer fans' questions. And in terms of the negativity, you just have to ignore that. Just dismiss it. You know, if you see those tweets come through, just don't even read them. Don't give them any credit. Don't acknowledge them. Like Donovan said, that's just going to cause more problems. So it's really about having fun with fans and kind of showing a different side of you, let them see a little bit into your life and who you are as a person. And that way they kind of connect with you more and want to get to know you more and follow you more in terms of athletes. But it's a great way to let fans know what's going on with you and give, you know, it's a direct communication. You don't have to send a press release. You don't have to hold a press conference. You can just announce something right on your social channels, like you did, Donovan, just a couple days ago with announcing your departure from Ring of Honor on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, that was a great way to do that and let all the media and all the fans know what was going on with you at that time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And getting back to what you just said as well, kind of using it as a tool to get people kind of involved in knowing what's going on with, you know, professional athletes and wrestlers. But the one thing too is you mentioned being active, and that's like when you're talking to celebrities and athletes, Jeramie, being active, because we both know that when you're active on social media or an athlete's tweeting at least like once a day or, you know, a couple times a week at least, the impressions and the traffic and the growth is just going to happen naturally, right? You know, a lot of people want a lot of followers, but if they're at the one, I don't even know if it's a secret anymore, but if you're posting, you know, on a constant basis, then, you know, people are going to see that it's an active account and people are going to follow you. And you see that issue with, that's why I brought the reluctancy. People are afraid to tweet, but they want a lot of followers. So it's like an interesting kind of, I don't know if it's like a double-edged sword, but I just find it interesting that they want growth. They want to get, you know, I mean, Donovan, you're an independent wrestler, right? I mean, I'm sure you're dealing with a lot of situations where you want endorsements and, you know, social media companies might come up to you and be like, hey, Donovan Dijak, we want you to be, we want you to make some posts with our product, you know? They're probably going to want to, like, they're probably going to like the fact that you're active on social media. That might be like a big selling point.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier that it is a bit of a double-edged sword, which definitely is, because I don't know if this applies to all fields, but certainly in professional wrestling there is such a thing as like oversaturation of social media.
Oh yeah,
you definitely don't want to post so much that your posts and whatever your you know, whatever you're trying to, whatever message you're trying to get across becomes lost in just a sea of, you know, whether it be on Twitter retweets or just mindless kind of babble that you know, nobody. I don't think anybody wants to hear your constant stream of consciousness going out on social media, which I find a lot happens in professional wrestling. Like there'll be some people that I'll follow on Twitter or Facebook, and there's just so many posts, and it's about, you know, they're going to the gym, they're going to, you know, they're eating lunch. What, you know, how salty is the meat on their sandwich? I don't care about any of that. You know, even some people when they're live tweeting like a Monday Night Raw, for example, I think that's cool every so often. But if you're the guy who posts like constantly during Monday Night Raw, like so much so it, like every single word that's said has a tweet about it, I'm probably not going to follow you anymore, because that's the time when I'm on my Twitter and I'm looking to see what people are thinking, and I don't want it to be 600 tweets from one guy and then like 3 from another one. So,
well, have you ever thought of, and Jeramie, you could bring in some examples as well. I'm a big fan of Twitter lists. That's what I use basically. So even though I'm following a certain amount of people, I have my categories and my lists of wrestlers, social media, and, you know, I might be following, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 people, but maybe on my list I only have about like, you know, half of that I'm actually following constantly. Because of issues like you said, you know, a lot of people that, and there's no issue with it, like I have no problem, but there are people that tweet all the time. Sometimes I'm like the culprit of that. Sometimes I do tweet a lot. I live tweet hockey games and everything. But there are ways to get rid of the noise and subtract the noise, Jeramie. Like what kind of things are you doing with your clients to kind of, or in general, with about that? Because there is a lot of noise that is saturated, like Donovan said.
I think Donovan was just calling out Petey Beats right there.
Yeah, I know.
We're tweeting too much during hockey games and Monday Night Raw. I think those fans are tweeting 500 times during Raw because they're hoping at least one of their tweets will end up in the crawl, you know, along the bottom of the show, or on Smack Talk afterward on the network. But no, I agree with Donovan that you when you're an athlete and celebrity, you need to be selective in terms of what you're posting, when you're posting, how often. And just in general, social media usage, I completely agree. It gets really annoying when you're following people that tweet nonstop, and it's nonsense, and it's stuff that's completely irrelevant. I'm pretty selective about when I tweet and what I tweet, and pretty careful about it. And I kind of recommend that my clients do the same.
Yeah, no, for sure. And another thing too, you know, we were meant, Davi, you mentioned like Monday Night Raw, but getting back to the whole conversation about social media and wrestling specifically, you know, NXT is the development of the WWE, and I've had this conversation with many of my friends, and I think that a lot of guys that are on NXT right now, if it wasn't for social media, wouldn't have the popularity that they're having if it wasn't there. I just look at a lot of guys and the way they kind of use their social media, and then how they are in the ring. Like Ty Dillinger, for example, that whole Perfect 10. I feel like everyone was using hashtag Perfect 10, and then it just became a thing. So do you think that even for smaller and independent organizations like Ring of Honor, Impact Wrestling, social media is not necessarily the savior, Donovan, but it can really help you go over, as they say in the WWE world or the wrestling world?
Yeah, again, it's again a bit of a double-edged sword. I mean, in one sense, yes, it definitely helps a lot of guys in certain scenarios, which is awesome. You know, that it's great that translates, that their character overlaps into social media. That's perfect. That's what you want to happen. But again, there's sometimes it can be a bit of fool's gold. You know, I think a lot of people rely a little bit too heavily on the social media aspect of it, not just in terms of their character development or whatever else it happens to be, but in the sense that they feel that they need to be quote unquote over with the Twitter whatever population. I'll give you an example. One of my current favorite wrestlers is Roman Reigns. I think he has fantastic matches. Him, John Cena, they're both huge draws. They make a ton of money, all this other stuff. But if you go on my Twitter timeline, everybody's dumping on him. Everybody hates both of those guys. They can't stand either of them. And I think that's fool's gold. You know, the fact that social media says that these two guys aren't any good. Well, that's completely untrue, because I see how much, you know, I see the crowd reactions when they come out. And to a different point, guys who who may have this social media thing down pat, and people are loving them on the internet, you know, they come out and it's you know, not nearly as loud as it is when the other guys come out, and it's clear they're not making as much merch sales, they're not moving the needle quite as much. So again, I think everything's to be taken in small doses. I often tell a lot of people, because we spend so much of our time on social media as wrestlers and promoters, and oftentimes it's our only view into the audience, especially because we're not in a WWE type scenario where we can look at Nielsen ratings or whatever it happens to be. So our only real outlet for feedback is social media. Yep. But a lot of times we forget that although that may be our only outlet, it's a very limited portion of our audience. I mean, I don't know the statistics, but I would guess that only like 15 to 20% of the people who are overall taking in me as a product are on social media, and even less of that are actually giving me any sort of tangible feedback. So it's all to be taken with a grain of salt, but it is definitely an important factor in the development of what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. And Jeramie, as a wrestling fan, but also someone who works in social media, what do you think about that whole double-edged sword concept, and what Donovan brought about Roman Reigns and John Cena? Because huge names, but on social media, everyone's kind of dumping on them. There's all that negative, those negative tweets, right?
Yeah, I think social media can be really positive for professional wrestlers, but I think in a way it can also be a negative. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Donovan. It seems like there are some people that use social media and they stay in character on social. And then there's other guys like a Bray Wyatt or even Charlotte Flair that they're on social and they're completely opposite of their character on TV. They're, you know, Bray Wyatt's posting photos with his family and with fans at the mall, and Charlotte's posting pictures with Sasha Banks backstage and talking about them being besties. And even though, you know, 99% of fans today know that professional wrestling is you know, storyline driven, and that these are athletes who are also actors in a way, and what they're seeing isn't real life. It takes me out of it a little bit when I see Charlotte and Sasha backstage posted on Instagram a half hour after they just had some epic match on on the pay-per-view. So I'd love your thoughts on that, on whether or not wrestlers should stay in character on social or not, or if it even matters.
We spoke about this with Maria Kanellis-Bennett, who was on the show last week, because she said she wants to make her character and her real life separate. She says that's the biggest thing she wants to do. But yeah, Donovan, that's a good question for Jeramie.
There's so many different approaches. It's funny that you mentioned Maria. She and I are friends, and I don't think we've ever discussed this, but I would almost, from a personal standpoint, take the exact opposite approach. And that's just me. That's how I would approach things. Obviously, what she or others are doing may or may not work for them. I can't speak to that. For me personally, the best thing to do is to sort of merge everything into one translucent sort of being. To me, the easiest way to be honest and have people to buy into my character and believe what I'm selling is to make it as real as possible. So I try to make my in-ring character reflect myself, my normal life, because all of that can be incredibly transparent. If I'm in the ring and sometimes I'm super angry, that's fine. Sometimes in real life I'm super angry. If I'm in the ring and sometimes I'm laughing or someone's making me chuckle, trying to piss me off, that can be real too. Sometimes my friends will get mad at me and I'll laugh it off or chuckle, or whatever. People can change. If I'm on a big, people always ask me, "Oh, are you a baby face or a heel?" And to me, it's not that black and white anymore. It doesn't have to be that black and white anymore. Yeah, depending on the match, sometimes I'll take an approach, but it's just like anybody else. Sometimes I'm having a good day. Sometimes I'm in a good mood. Sometimes I'm having a bad day. Sometimes I'm in a bad mood. On my social media, I just try to be myself, and in the ring, I just try to be myself too. And to me, that makes it so much easier to balance. And yes, of course, if one day it comes along and I have some sort of completely over the top character that doesn't translate at all, like I think a good example is Lana in the WWE.
Yes.
I didn't know this, but on the Total Divas show, she's just herself. She's a girl from Florida, I think. So
yeah, well, she was
no Russian accent.
Well, she was known before. She was in Pitch Perfect. I don't know. She was doing acting before WWE as well. So
right. So of course the Russian character, this over the top character that's been either her idea or given to her or whatever it is, and she chooses not to reflect that in her real life and social media, which is fine. I mean, that'd be incredibly difficult, and she obviously wouldn't have the Total Divas opportunity if she was in character the whole time. That'd be very strange. But yeah, so some things work for some people. If eventually that I find myself in that position one day, then I'll have to make a similar decision as well. So it's all to be taken with, again, a grain of salt. It's such a uncharted position for all of us to be in, that you just have to navigate it in the way that you see best possible.
Funny story actually, and Donovan, you might know a little bit about this, but on Impact Wrestling right now, there's a storyline with Braxton Sutter and Laurel
Van Ness?
Yes, yeah, Laurel Van. Yeah, I know it's Laurel Van something. Yeah, Laurel Van Ness. And basically what's happening is it's like a wedding that he kind of didn't agree to. Like basically, like she really likes him and he's not into her at all. But he ended up dropping his bottle of water and then like went on his knees, and she like looked at him and said, "Oh yes, I will marry you." And he's like, No, that's not what I said. But what I find funny is like his character does not want to marry her. Yet on Twitter he retweeted the "Join us on TNA for the wedding" between Laurel and Braxton Sutter. So that kind of, Jeramie, said is a little bit what you said too, right? The kind of putting the on-air character with the off-air character. And you mentioned, I mentioned Maria. It's unfortunate, but Mike Bennett, her husband, was supposed to join us on the show, and I didn't hear back from him, but he was that would have been cool to get his perspective on all of this as well. But yeah, no. I think we're going to wrap up. I think this was a really cool discussion about social media and wrestling. Donovan, we thank you very much for coming on the show. Any closing remarks? Anything you want to plug or anything we should know about what to expect from Donovan Dijak in 2017 that you know of?
Nothing I know of. Everyone knows all my social media stuff. I assume it's all Donovan Dijak, DONOVANDIJAK. Facebook.com, Twitter at Donovan Dijak, Instagram Donovan Dijak 44. So yeah, that's all the stuff everybody knows. Other than that, I don't know anything about my own personal future in 2017. But hopefully it's all good stuff that everyone has to look forward to.
Well, I wish you all the best, Donovan. Seriously, it really means a lot for you to come on the show. I'm a big fan. I've been following you from Ring of Honor and the independent circuits as well. So it's really cool to talk to you one-on-one like this. So I appreciate it.
Cool, yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and Jeramie, it finally happened. We've been talking about this for a long time, but it finally happened, and you came on Popternative, and I appreciate it because I really respect you. Have a lot of experience and success in this industry, and we made this show for guys that want to work in the social media sports sphere, and they can kind of watch these episodes and see experts like you give their kind of 2 cents. So thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Enjoyed it. I feel like we just got started and we could go another hour, but I appreciate you having me, Donovan. It was good to talk to you as well, and I look forward to following your social and see where your big announcement, where you end up next. And we'll follow you there as well. And if anyone wants to follow me, I am Jeramie at Jeramie on Twitter or Instagram, and you can check out my pictures and video from the Elimination Chamber this past Sunday here in Phoenix.
Perfect. Well, this has been Popternative. Thank you, Donovan. Thank you, Jeramie. You can catch previous episodes of Popternative on YouTube, youtube.com/Popternative, on SoundCloud and iTunes as well. You can like us on Facebook. And yeah, the champ is in the building. Thank you both for coming on, and we hope you have a great rest of the week.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.